Smell by Sarath Sacramento. Those same days of rain outside the window. The people leaves were washed in the same way. On the teak of spring bed, which had been now moved slightly away from the window, a Marathi girl clung to Randhir. Outside the window, the people leaves like a clown earrings, clattered in the pale darkness. The Marathi girl, like a shudder herself, clung to Randhir. It had been nearly evening when, after spending the day reading of news and advertisement in an English newspaper, he had stepped onto the balcony for some fresh air. It was there that he saw her, a worker, perhaps nearby the rope of factory, taking the shelter under a tamarind tree. He drew her attention by clearing his throat and gestured to come up on the stairs. He had been feeling very lonely for many days because of the war. Virtually all Bombay's Christian girls, inexpensive in the past, had joined the Women Auxiliary Force. Some of them opened a dancing school in vicinity of the fort where only white soldiers were allowed entry. This was the cause of Randhir's deep depression. On one other hand, Christian guns became scarce. Randhir, far more redefined, educated, healthy, and handsome than a white shoulders, finding the dawn of dancing bar close to him because the color of his skin was not white. Before the war, Randhir had sexual relations with many Christian girls near Nagpura and the Taj Hotel. He knew the nature of these relationships. He knew far better than those Christian mongrels that girls carried on romance purely for the sake of passion. But would in the end of invariable marry some asshole? After all, it was only to take revenge on the Hazel that had gestured to the Marathi girl to come upstairs. Hazel lived in the flat below. Every morning she wore her cap, uniform, tipped her khaki cap to one side over her short hair, and stepped onto the pavement as if expecting to the other pedestrian to lay themselves down like a rug at her feet. Randhir wondered why he was so drawn to these Christian girls. There was no doubt they were displaying those parts of their body that are worth displaying. They discussed the irregularities of their periods without the slightest hesitation. They told stories of old lovers when they heard dancing music. They began to shake a leg. That was all fine. But surely all women could possess these qualities. Randhir did not think he would sleep with a Marathi girl when he had gestured to her to come upstairs. But a few moments later, after seeing her wet clothes and thinking, I hope the poor thing doesn't get the pneumonia, he said. Take these clothes off or you will catch a cold. She understood his meaning because the vein in her eyes reddened and seemed to swim. But when Randhir took out of his white dhoti and handed it to her, she thought it over and opened her kashta. Now were more visibly dirty for being wet. She put it one side and hurriedly wrapped the dhoti around her thighs. She tied She tried taking off her tight blouse, but its ends were tied in a knot that was buried in her shallow, dirty cleavage. She tried at length, with the help of her worn down nails, to open the blouse knot, but it had become tough with rain. Tiring at last, she gave up, saying something to Randhir in Marathi, that meaning of which was, "What am I do to? It won't open." Randhir sat down beside her and began opening the knot, because he soon tired of it too, and taking one end of the blouse in each hand, he pulled. The knot slipped. Randhir hands flew everywhere. Through her throbbing breast came into the view. Randhir felt for a moment that his own hands, like those of some expert potter, had fashioned two cups of soft, kneaded clay on this Marathi girl's chest. Her breast had the same half-ripened juice quality, the same appeal, the same warm coolness that is found in the still wet dishes that came freshly from the hands of potter. Mixed in these full youthful unstained breasts was a strange shine. It was if a layer of dim light under their dark, reddish color gave off this shine. A shine that was both present and not. The swell of her breast had an aspect of clay lamps burning through the murky water. Those same days of rain, the people clattered outside the window. The Marathi girl saw clothes in the squalid heap on the floor. She clung to Randhir. The warmth of her naked and dirty body produced the same sensation in him as that of bathing in the bitter water in the barber grimy but warm hammam. All night she clung to Randhir. They two became fused to one another. No more than words passed between them, but everything that needed to be said was communicated through her lips, breath, and hands. All night, Randhir had swam as slightly as air over the Marathi girl's breast. Her tiny nipples and the fat bumps were spread in the black circle round them would awaken with the sensation, producing in her body such a friction that Randhir himself was left trembling. He had knew this trembling many times before. He was well acquainted with its pleasure. He had passed nights like this before, pressing his chest against the soft and firm breasts of many girls. He had slept with two girls who were totally universal and wrapped themselves around him, telling him everything about their homes that should never be told to a stranger. He had sexual relations with girls who would do all the hard work themselves and never give an ounce of trouble. But this Marathi girl, who had stood drenched under the tamarind tree and to whom he had gestured to come upstairs and different. Randhir inhaled a strange smell from her body all night. It was at once foul and sweat smelling as he drank it in. From her armpits, her breast, her hair, her back, from everywhere, it became part of every breath Randhir took. All night he thought this Marathi girl, despite being so close to me, would not be nearly so close if it were not this smell coming from her naked body. It had trickled into each root of his mind, inhabiting his old and new thoughts. The smells salted Randhir and this girl together for that night. They both entered each other. They descended to great depths, become one pure pinnacle of human bliss. A bliss that, despite being temporary, is permanent. Despite being airborne, is immobile and immovable. The two had of become like a bird that, after soaring into the blue of the skies, comes to seem motionless. Randhir understood the smell that came from every pore of this Marathi girl, but he was unable to compare it anything. Like with the smell that comes from the water sprinkled on mud. But no, that smell was different. In this, there was nothing felicity of lavender and attar. It was utterly real, like an ununifying relation between man and woman, real and immemorable. Randhir detested the smell of sweat. After bathing, he usually put sand powder in his armpits and other areas too, or some other concoction that suppressed the smell of sweat. What surprised him, now that he was felt no revolution at kissing the Marathi girl hairy armpits. Instead, he felt a strange kind of pleasure. Her soft armpits' hair had become moist with sweat. The smell that came from them, though comprehensible on so many levels, was in the end incomprehensible. Randhir felt he knew it, recognized it, even understood its meaning, but couldn't make anyone else understand. Those same days of rain, he looked out of the same window to see the clattering people leaves washed in the rain. Their sound and rustle the wind seemed to collide. It was dark, but light lay buried in the darkness, as though a bit of starlight had made its own way down with the raindrops. Those days of rain, when in Randhir room there had been only a new single teak bed. Now there was one another to next to it, and in the corner a new dressing table. Those same days of rain, the same season, a little starlight making its way down with the raindrops. But the air now was infused with scent of henna. The other bed was empty. In the bed on which Randhir lay sideways, watching the play of raindrops on the people leaf outside. A fair-skinned woman, after trying vainly to conceal her naked upper body with her arms, had fallen asleep. Her red silk salwar lay on the other bed. One tassel from its deep red drawstring hung down. Her other clothes also lay on the bed, her bra, her underpants, her kameez with its old gold flower, her dupatta. All red, astonishing red, they were imbued with the powerful scent of henna. Little flecks of glitter collected like a dust in the girl's hair. On her face, little rouge and lipstick had came together to produce a strange color, and faded and lifeless. Her bra strap had left stains on her white chest. Her breasts were milky white, but with a hint of blue. Her armpits were shaved, making them seem dusted with coal. Randhir had looked at this girl many times and thought, isn't it as if I have just torn an open window or a wooden carton that her taking out, like a stack of books of china or dishes? She even has marks and scratches like those on books and china. Randhir had opened her bra tight, closing fit strap. Its impression could be seen in the soft flesh on her back and chest. There was also strain on her waist from her tied down drawstring. Her heavy necklace with its sharp points had left indentation on her chest, as if nails had dug forcefully at it. Those same days of rain, the raindrop falling on the people's smooth, soft leaves, making the small same sound Randhir had heard throughout that night. The weather was perfect, a cold breeze blew, but the powerful scent of henna flower was mixed into it. Randhir's hands ran like a air over this pale, fair-skinned girl, milky white breast. His fingers set loose a shiver through her soft body. When he pressed her chest against her, he could hear the sound of every chord that had been struck in this girl. But where was the cry? The cry he had inhaled in the smell of that Marathi girl. The cry that was infinitely more comprehensible than of that child thirsty of milk. The cry that after exceeding the limit of the voice, become inaudible. Randhir was looking out of the window grills. The people leaves scattered very near him, but he was trying much further. That too very dim light was visible through murky clouds. A light like one he had seen in the Marathi girl's dress. A light which like a content of the secret was both hidden and evident. In Randhir's arms lay a fair-skinned girl whose body was soft like a dough mixed with butter and milk. From her sleeping body came now tired scent of henna to Randhir. It was unpleasant as the man's last breath and sour like a blush, discolored, sad, joyless. Randhir looked at the girl who lay in his arms as one looks at curdled milk with its lifeless white lumps afloat in the pallid water. In the same way, girl's woman lives left him cold. His mind and the body were still consumed by the smell that came naturally from the Marathi girl. The smell that was many times more subtle and pleasurable than the scent of henna. Randhir made one last effort to touch this girl's milky white body, but he felt no trembling. His brand new wife, who was the daughter of a first-class magistrate, who had attained a BA, who was the heartthrob of so many boys in her college, did not quicken his pulse in the death scent of henna. He searched for that smell in those same days of rain, when, in an open window, the people lived for watched. He had inhaled from the dirty body of a Marathi girl.